everybody.
Maya?
Well, at least I have my people on. Where's our camera lady?
Oh, they're supposed to be up here. They were supposed to help, so I can find out.
Yeah, she needs to be here.
Dr. Busso was us back in town.
That's nice. The next one. Okay, wait till everybody comes. Few more people. You play the bass? Found it. There you are. If I'm gonna play. For that. Okay, we're online. All you have to do is operate the camera. Not just on me, but you can actually show the audience. Okay, there's no conservative people here, so I can actually play the guitar. At least everyone online will appreciate that. Hello, everybody. So we're going to be a minute or two late. So you could all wait. We're going to celebrate Lord Nityananda's appearance day. It's 5 o'clock here, and it's also Indian Standard Time, so people always come late. But we're going to start in about 4 or 5 minutes. I think everybody, let me make sure the sound's. Hare Krishna, yeah. The way you can tell the sound is right there.
It doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, I will. I'll get that. Let's see, how we gonna? I got my wireless. Okay. Right, I guess we should start, right? Switch. Okay. So the sound is registering on up there? Okay. Okay, so we are celebrating Lord Nityananda's appearance day, and we're going to chant. You ready? Let me get so I can see it. Should have brought my wireless mic, but anyway. Jai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Sushitala Ye Jai Jagatudai Ye Jaya Jagatudai Le Done Jai Bine Pai Radha Krishna Pahete Nai Trina Kore Daro Dichai Pai Say Samananahiya Pritchan Magela Tar Say Pashabaro Durajara China Boleo Mukay Machilo Samsara 2K Vidya Kore Kito Ribetara Matoe Akmo Kisai Pilots Maksuriya Asachere Sachagori Mane Jaya Korora Kohebe Rajaraka Krishna Bohebe Karunitai Charana Dukane Jaya Charana Satyava Tahadam Sivakanetcha Nityai Panat Sara Kuru Asha Rakaranga Charanera Pasha Nitai Bada Kamala Koti Chandra Susitala Ye Jaya Jachurai Jai Om Vishnupad. All Satara Satashi Shima, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada. ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Jai. Ananta Koti, Vaishnava Vrinda Jai. Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Jai. Friends, say go. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhas.
Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Gopi Gopinath,
कौन है
सब चुके हैं कि नीला कुर्ता है, दो एक नीली साड़ी है, फ्रॉक है, एक लाइट है।
Tulasi Devi
पापा
Ki
के नाम
Jai,
नहीं दिख रहे,
Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Gaur
ये क्लास करनी
अभी आगे जाके 2 मिनट में ठीक हो जाएगा।
All
Glory.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. Hari Hari Bol. Mahom Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prasthaya Budle. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin. Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gaurvadi Pacharni. Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya. Dejatarni. I switched the microphone already. Okay, so for those of you who are here with us, who want Lord Nityananda's mercy, I guess you can give me that. We're going to read Srila Prabhupada's translation of this song, Nityananda Nishta. Get my translation out. No, that's not the translation. All right. So, not that many people tonight. Yes, they're all on Indian Standard Time working. Okay, but at least online. How many people do we have watching us on? It's on their participants, it'll say the. How many?
30.
That's good. So we should just live online instead of in person. So, okay. Ishwar looks a lot like Rishikesh every time I look at him. Somehow or other, he has the same bodily build. So we'll read Prabhupada's translation of this particular poem, which is a beautiful translation and also commentary. It's a combination of a commentary and translation. And let me just get this one ready too, as we have to power that one on. Okay. This is a song by Narottama Das Thakur, a great acharya of this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He has written many songs about the Vaishnava philosophy. I just want to check to make sure that it's online properly before we continue. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Yep. Online. He has written many songs about the Vaishnava philosophy, and they are approved as completely corresponding with Vedic instructions. So here, Narottama Das Thakur is singing that the whole world is suffering under the blazing fire of material existence. Therefore, one should take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, because it is as cooling as the moon rays combined together of millions of moons. That means one will immediately find a peaceful atmosphere, just like a man works the whole day. If he comes under the moonshine, he feels relief. Similarly, any materialistic man who comes under the shelter of Lord Nityananda will immediately feel that relief. Then he says, Nitai Padakamala Koti Chandra Shushitala. Yechayai Jagat Judaya Hena Nitai Vinay Bhai Radhakrishna Paite Nai. He says that if you are anxious to go back to home, back to Godhead, and become associated with Radha and Krishna, then the best policy is to take shelter of Nityananda. Then he says, Se Sambandha Nahiya Mrita Janma Gelatara. One who has not been able to contact Nityananda then one should think of himself that he has simply spoiled his valuable life. Brita Janma Gela, Brita means for nothing, and Janma means life. Gela Tara spoiled because he has not made connection with Nityananda. Nityananda, that very name suggests Nitya means eternal, Ananda means pleasure. Material pleasure is not eternal, that is the distinction. Therefore, those who are intelligent, they are not interested with this flickering pleasure of the material world. Every one of us, as living entity, we are searching after pleasure, but that pleasure we are seeking, that is flickering, temporary, that is not pleasure. Real pleasure is Nityananda, eternal bliss. So anyone who has no contact with Nityananda, it is to be understood that his life is spoiled. Se sambandha nahi yara brita janma gelatara. Se pashu bara durachar. Narottamadas Thakur uses here a very harsh word. He says that such a human being is an animal, and an uncontrolled animal, as there are some animals that cannot be tamed. So anyone who has not contacted Nityananda, he should be considered as an untamed animal. Se pashu baro durachara. Why? Because nityana bolilo mukhe. He never uttered the holy name of Nityananda and Majilo Samsara Sukhe and become merged into this material happiness. Vijakule ki korebe tara. That nonsense does not know that. What will his education and family and tradition and nationality will help him? These things cannot help him. These are all temporary things. Simply, if we want eternal pleasure, we must contact Nityananda, Vijakule ki korebe tara. Vidya means education, and Kula means family, nationality. So we may have a very nice family connection, or we may have very nice national prestige. But after ending this body, these things will not help me. I'll carry my work with me, and according to that work, I shall have to accept, or I shall have to accept by force another type of body. It may be something other than human body. So these things cannot protect us or give us the real pleasure. So Narottamadas Thakur advises Vijakule ki korave tara. Then he says, Ahankara matahoya, being maddened after false prestige and identification, false identification with the body and prestige of bodily relationships. This is called Ahankara matahoyana. One is mad after this false prestige, Ahankara matahoya, nitai parapasariya. Due to this false prestige, we are thinking, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? We don't care. So, pasariya asatyare sachakori mani. The result is that I am accepting something which is false. For example, I'm accepting this body, I am not this body. Therefore, with false identification, I'm becoming more and more entangled. So one who is puffed up with this false prestige, ahankara matahaya, nite para pashriya satyare sachakori mani. He accepts something wrong is right. Then he says, nitaira koruna hoive, braje Radhakrishna pave. If you are actually serious about going back to home, back to Godhead, then please seek after the mercy of Nityananda. Nitaira koruna hoive, braje Radhakrishna pave, Daro Nitai Charana Dukani, please catch up the lotus feet of Nityananda. Then he says, Nitai Charana Sacha. One may think that as we catch hold of so many shelters, but in this material world later on they prove false. Similarly, suppose we catch hold of the lotus feet of Nityananda, it may also prove false. But Narottamadas Thakur assures us that Nitai Charana Sacha, it is not false. Because Nityananda is eternal, his lotus feet are also eternal. Tahara Sevaka Nitya, and anyone who takes to the service of Nityananda, they also become eternal. Without being eternal, no one can serve the eternal. That is the Vedic injunction. Without becoming Brahma, one cannot approach the Supreme Brahman. Just like without being fire, nobody can enter into the fire. Without being water, nobody can enter into the water. Similarly, without being fully spiritualized, nobody can enter into the spiritual kingdom. So Nitai Charana Sacha. If you catch the lotus feet of Nityananda, then you become immediately spiritualized, just like if you touch electricity, immediately you become electrified. This is natural. Similarly, Nityananda is eternal happiness. If you touch Nityananda some way or other, then you become also eternally happy. Tahara Sevaka Nitya. Therefore, one who has contacted Nityananda, they have become eternal. Nitai charana sacha tahara sevaka nitya dridakori doro nitai pai. So just catch him very tightly. Naratama bado duki nitai more koro suki. At the last, Narottama Das Thakur, the composer of this song, is appealing to Lord Nityananda. My dear Lord, I am very unhappy, so you please make me happy, and you kindly keep me in the corner of your lotus feet. That is the sum and substance of this song. Jai, Srila Prabhupada, Gi Jai. So now we are going to continue with the discussion that we started this morning. It's amazing when I see Ishwar, I just think of Rishikesh somehow or other. Same head structure, I think. When I think of Rishikesh whenever I see Ishwar Chaitanya. It just looks like him somehow. I just look and say, oh, Rishikesh is here. Anyway. Somehow or other. Okay, so let us go to where we left off. And we left off with Lord Chaitanya encountering Lord Nityananda in the house of Nandanacharya. And actually, we did some research. It is Nandanacharya's house. I had the direct quote from the Chaitanya Bhagavat to prove that. Hold on one second. So we're going to go through quite a few number of pastimes now. And we ask you to all be patient or ecstatic, depending on your consciousness. How many people are watching now?
34.
How many?
34.
34. Okay, it's increasing. And more people on Facebook. Encourages me when I hear high numbers. So let's see how many on Facebook.
And more people
Whoops.
on Facebook.
Oh. Hopefully it's not because I'm egotistic. Anyway, so all right, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was meeting for the first time Lord Nityananda in the house of Nandanacharya. And Lord Chaitanya, this morning we talked about how Lord Chaitanya had this dream and this stalwart personality, very tall, and was Balaram, said that I am coming and I'm going to meet you. And Lord Chaitanya entered in the mood of Balaram and he said, give me wine, give me wine. Now that's in reference to Lord Balaram's trying to drag the Jamuna River to him and drinking the Varuni beverage and getting intoxicated. Because in the spiritual world, there's also intoxication. Everything that's in this world is there in the spiritual world, but there it has no inebrities. In other words, nothing bad about it. It's spiritual. It's just like even Krishna, sometimes he's drinking honey wine. And they get so intoxicated, him and the gopis, that they pour the honey wine into the wrong side of the glass. Like you've ever seen a wine glass. You know, wine glass is flat on the bottom, but it's just slightly curved. And you may think, they did that with Prabhupada, not with wine, but with water one time. The devotee was looking at this really fancy glass that Srila Prabhupada had. And he picked it up and he poured it into the wrong end of the glass and the water got all over the desk. Prabhupada said, what is that? Okay. So after 3 hours of searching for Lord Nityananda, we had Sri Haridas Thakur and Shivas Pandit were searching for Lord Nityananda, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard their report that they could not find him. They said, we could not find him anywhere. And so then Lord Chaitanya revealed that Lord Nityananda's incarnation is so confidential and mysterious, it's impossible for anyone to see him until Lord Chaitanya reveals the secret. In other words, if you want to understand Lord Nityananda, you have to approach Lord Chaitanya to reveal Lord Nityananda to you. And if you want to understand Lord Chaitanya, you have to approach Lord Nityananda. So you may say, well, I can't see either one without the other. So what am I going to do? Well, that's why we have a guru. So, and then Lord Chaitanya said, come with me and let us go find him. all the devotees became very jubilant, and they marched to the house of Nandanacharya. So it's described in this literature, the Chaitanya Mangala, that without proper spiritual vision, one cannot see Lord Nityananda. And when they first encountered him, a sweet smile was playing on his lips, and he was totally absorbed in meditation on Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was looking so beautiful, it's described, even more beautiful than Cupid. And there were flowers hanging around his neck, and he was wearing very nice, beautiful clothes. Of course, yellow dhoti, as he normally wore. And then finally, he caught sight of Lord Nityananda, and Lord Nityananda's long hands extended down to his knees, as I said before. And the Brahman thread hung loosely across his broad and expansive chest. And when Lord Nityananda saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was certain that this Lord Vishwambar who stood before him was none other than his beloved Supreme Lord. So Lord Nityananda was unable to move when he saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With his tongue, it's described, he wanted to taste the Lord's beauty and drink it with his eyes, and he became speechless, completely enchanted by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beauty. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood what was going on. So he asked Srivas Thakur to recite a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the beauty of Krishna. And one of the sections of the verse is that at that time, Krishna, dressed as a dancer, stepped into the forest of Vrindavan. A peacock feather was stuck in his crown. And there's a lot more here. And as soon as Lord Nityananda heard this, he fell down unconscious. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept saying, read on, read on. And Lord Nityananda eventually came to his external consciousness and started crying tears of joy and started roaring so loudly that the whole universe was actually hearing the roaring of Lord Nityananda. And it pierced through the covering of this material world. And then Lord Nityananda started jumping up and down. And he was crashing to the ground, like jumping, jumping. And everyone was thinking that he's going to smash all the bones in his body. I mean, you can imagine that if someone started jumping up and falling on the ground. Oh my God. I remember, like Mother Krishna Priya just fell out of bed and she had a little fracture, right? And the bed wasn't that high. So, yeah. Well, actually, I remember we were with Mother Krishna Priya one time in India, and I heard a scream. She was flying up in the air. A cow's horns just picked her up and threw her in the air. It was right by the Krishna Balam tree, but she didn't get hurt. So Lord Nityananda, everyone was saying, Krishna, save him! Krishna, save him! And he was kept rolling on the ground and sighing. And he jumped and danced and even wrestled, I guess, with himself. And other times he just hung his head quietly, like that. And all the devotees, including Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, began to cry in joy, seeing this absorption. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him to hold him still, to keep him from hurting himself. And Lord Chaitanya flooded Lord Nityananda with his ecstatic tears. And the devotees were remembering, this was very similar to when Lord Ramchandra had held Lakshman, when Lakshman was hit with the Shakti Shila weapon. Those of you who know the Ramayana will know what I'm talking about. And then Lord Ram held Lakshman in his arms. And also they said, well, this is actually reverse position, because normally what happens? Normally Lakshman is Shesha and Nityananda, he's Ananta, and he holds the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in this particular case, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was holding Ananta Shesh. So they're just amazed at this whole thing. And Gadadhar Pandit actually understood this. This is a quote from Gadadhar Pandit. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, as Ananta Shesh, renders service to Lord Vishwambar by becoming the bed in which Lord Narayan always rests. But today his pride as the servitor has been broken, and he lies in Lord Vishwambar's embrace. So in this way, they became totally unaware of the passing of time. And Lord Nityananda ultimately, when he came back to external consciousness, said something simply amazing. This is a quote from Lord Nityananda, the direct words of Lord Nityananda. I extensively toured all the places of pilgrimage. And we talked about that this morning, how Lord Nityananda went to all the places of pilgrimage before he came to Vrindavan to wait for the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But I could see only the place and not Krishna, the Supreme Lord. I asked some good people why their altars were standing empty. I do not see him in his own place, I said. Where is Krishna? Where did he go? They all replied, Krishna has gone to Gaudadesh, Bengal. He was in Gaya recently, and not so long ago he returned back to Bengal. When I came to Nadia, I was greeted by jubilant chanting the Lord's holy name, and someone told me that Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had appeared here. I hear that in Nadia, even the most wretched fallen souls can get liberation. Thus, being such an abominable wretch, I have come here. Remember, that's Lord Nityananda talking. And Lord Vishwambar, that's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, replied, we are most fortunate that a devotee such as yourself is amongst us now, and we are very grateful to the Lord that today we have seen your ecstatic tears of love of Godhead. And Murari Gupta was just like really overawed seeing this. He and the other Vaishnavas said they look as if they are two cupids. And someone else said they are Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna. Another one said, Krishna has taken Lord Anantashesh in his arms. So many of the devotees understood what was happening. And here it's described, reiterating what I said this morning, that Lord Nityananda Prabhu assists Lord Chaitanya in every way, sometimes as a friend, sometimes as umbrella, and sometimes as bed, and sometimes as carrier. And even Lord Nityananda's expansion of Shesh, or Ananta Shesh, who was non-different from him. Remember we talked about this morning, Advaita Chuta Nadi or Ananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purusham Navyovan, there's only one God. But because of the influence of Yogamaya, which Krishna puts himself under, he apparently doesn't know what his other incarnations are doing simultaneously, even though it's the same person. And that's inconceivable. The word in Sanskrit, of course, is achintya. That's the achintya Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even the statement here is, even Lord Shesh, who was a great yogi, a pure devotee, himself a controller of this material energy, cannot fully fathom the limits of Lord Nityananda's transcendental nature. If one criticizes or offends Lord Nityananda without knowing about all of his wonderful qualities, then although he is a constitutionally an eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes forever rejected from the path of devotional service. Lord Nityananda is the object of Lord Chaitanya's complete love. One who desires to cross over this ocean of nescience and drown in the nectarian waters of love of Godhead must take shelter at the lotus feet of Nitai Chandra. And so continuing with the narration, we're going to go to the next chapter. So now Lord Nityananda is firmly ensconced in Navadvip at this particular juncture. So we're going to talk about some of his pastimes in Navadvip. So while he was in Navadvip, he, as we've heard many times before, the Lord Nityananda had the mood of an avaduta. Avaduta means like the wind. So remember, he's quite old, 32 years old. Of course, that's not old. For me, it's not old. But 32, I mean, it's an adult. So he's over 32 years old, but he's taking on the mood of a very young, rambunctious boy. Not only rambunctious, but it's described that many times he would not even eat by himself. He had to be fed. Remember, 32 years old. Try to picture this in your mind. You have a 32. Is anyone here close to 32? No. What? Oh, Christy's also 32.
I'm not 32 yet, but I feel it.
Okay. And so I'm 34. That's just so he took on the mood of a young boy, and he was being fed by Srivas Thakur's wife, Malini, and we're going to describe that in a second, what it was like. So one day, Lord Chaitanya, and it was quite unusual for a 32-year-old man to act like a kid. And so he was playing with the other kids, the other boys, and just running around, just acting like almost like a baby. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to test Srivas Thakur one time. He asked him, he wanted to test to see if he actually had faith in Lord Nityananda. Because the Lord acts in ways that are inconceivable to us. I mean, when Krishna was on the planet, he did things that no kid could do, like lifting Govardhan Hill with it. No adult could do either, lifting Govardhan Hill with the pinky of his left hand. So, I mean, just obviously. So Lord Chaitanya wanted to test Srivas Thakur's determination and faith in Lord Nityananda. He says, why do you keep and maintain this Avaduta in your house? You don't know anything about him, who he is, where he comes from, what his family background is. I warn you that you are being too lenient and kind to him. If you want to maintain your good reputation of your family and society, then you should immediately kick him out of the house. And Srivas Thakur understood that this was a trick. He said, oh Lord, it's not possible for you to test me in this way. I know that Lord Nityananda is your expansion. You are the Supreme Lord. There's no difference between yourself and Lord Nityananda. I am your servant, and anyone who serves you becomes my master. Even if Lord Nityananda were a meat-eating drunkard, and due to my association with him, I lost my reputation, wealth, and everything else. Still, I tell you that I would never think of anything else other than serving his and your lotus feet. Also, in some of the other shastras, it's described that he also said, even if he marries a Muslim girl, I will not be deterred from my determination to serve him. And then Lord Chaitanya, feeling so much joy, said, you have so much faith and love for Lord Nityananda. I am so pleased with you that I grant you the greatest boon, even if it comes time when Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is forced to wander and start begging from everybody. You will never become poverty-stricken. And here's an interesting point about anyone who serves and loves Lord Nityananda. Everyone in your house, including your pet dogs, cats. So we have a pet cat here. Will find, here's the benediction, will find complete shelter of my devotional service. Therefore, I leave Lord Nityananda Prabhu in your care so that you may look after him and serve him properly. That's a benediction. So anyone who serves Lord Nityananda properly, and anyone in their house, or any animal in their house, gets to go back to Godhead. Your first preaching program. So Lord, and sometimes it's described, and these are really amazing pastimes. He would just jump in the Ganges, and the Ganges is very swift. It's quite dangerous, actually. We've had some devotees die in the Ganges because they jumped in and thought that they could swim across. Even one time, Gopal went in and he had to be rescued. He said, I can make it to the other side. And I was standing there, well, let's see. He gets halfway there and he goes, Gurudev, Gurudev. And he had to be saved. So Lord Nityananda would jump in the middle of the Ganges and allow the currents to just carry him halfway. And sometimes he'd jump in parts of the Ganges that had crocodiles, and he would embrace the crocodile. And other times he played in the like young boy, like a little child, as I mentioned before. And he would visit the houses of different devotees like Ganga Das, Pandit, and Murari Gupta. And sometimes he would try to catch Mother Sachi's feet, run after her to touch her feet. And she always tried to run away from him. So here's another interesting story. One night, Mother Sachi had an interesting dream, and she told Lord Chaitanya about this dream. She said, late in the night, I dreamt I saw you and Nityananda. You were two 5-year-old boys running around playing and fighting. I saw both of you enter the deity room and then come out with the deity of Lord Balaram in your hand and the deity of Krishna in Nityananda's hand. The four of you then began to fight with each other. In other words, the two deities and the two little boys were fighting each other. Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna were angry and said to you, hey, you cheaters, you imposters, get out of here. This house and this room belongs to us, and everything else here, like the sweets, curd, and milk, they're all ours. And then this is all Mother Sachi's dream. And then in Mother Sachi's dream, Lord Nityananda replied, those days of stealing butter and curd for you to eat are now gone. You are no longer coward boys. Now have you become young Brahmins, so give up your possessiveness about all these sweets, yogurt, and milk now. If you do not listen to our sweet persuasion, then we will convince you with a beating. Who is going to tolerate your plundering and mischief? We will catch hold of you, both of you impostors, talking to the deities, and tie you up and leave you here. If by chance you go, oh no, this is the deities talking something, I'm sorry. The deities talking right now. Hold on a second. We catch hold, if you tie up and leave you here, if by chance you go against the wishes of Krishna, no one will blame us for this. Lord Nityananda replied, who is afraid of your Krishna? My Lord and Master is Lord Vishwambar. So it's described that the four of them fought with each other, snatching the sweets and food from each other's hands and mouths. This is Mother Sachi's dream. Nityananda called out in the dream, saying, Mother, bring some food, I'm very hungry. And then Mother Sachi said, I woke up, but I cannot understand anything of this dream. Therefore, I'm telling it to you. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said something very funny. He said, our deities are very powerful. Your dream is very interesting. And now I have much more strength and devotion and faith in them. He said, previously I saw that on the altar, the sweets would remain half eaten after the offering was over. I was suspicious of my wife, but now everything has become clear. So Lord Chaitanya was saying that he was suspicious that Vishnu Priya was taking some of the food from the altar and eating. And they all started to laugh. So here's another interesting story. So one time, Lord Chaitanya went to Nityananda and asked him to come, saying, today we are making a special offering to the deities, so please don't misbehave. Nityananda said, Vishnu, Vishnu, only mad people misbehave. You think I will misbehave because you think everyone is like yourself. So they entered the house. This is such an amazing story. And they washed their hands and everything like that. And they sat down, and Mother Sachi was thinking they look like Lord Ramchandra and Lakshman. And she was so happy and very excited to serve both of them. When she returned with the plates of prasadam, she actually saw two young boys about 5 years of age in the place where Vishwambar and Nityananda had been sitting. One boy had a blackish complexion and the other was very fair. Of course, that's Krishna and Balaram. They were both very beautiful. They had one of them had 4 arms, which are the symbols of Vishnu, and his breast was marked with the Srivatsa, the jewel from his neck, and a beautiful fish-shaped earrings dangled from his ears. The other boy held a plow and pestle. She also saw that her daughter-in-law, Vishnu Priya, was situated on the breast of one of the young children. As soon as she saw this, it vanished. So Sachi Mata just like dropped everything at this particular point. All the food stuff scattered all over the place. And she fell to the ground and was unconscious for a long period of time. Wonderful story. Another time, there was a crow that stole a small metal container that was used for ghee at Malini's house, that's Srivas Thakur's wife. And the crow came back but without the container. And Malini was very much in anxiety about her husband's anger. And if he saw this ghee vessel missing, he was going to be really, really angry, like a thunderstorm. So she began to cry. And Lord Nityananda came there and said, "Why are you crying? Tell me the cause of your distress. I will take care of everything." And she told him what had happened. And then he said, "Crow, go back and bring the vessel quickly." And the crow came back and brought the vessel. Malini was very, very happy. And she began to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as Lord Nityananda was listening to these prayers, very elaborate prayers that she was able to offer, he remarked in a childlike manner, "I'm hungry, I want to eat." But it's interesting the way he ate at Srivas Thakur's house. It's described that even though she was quite old, she was producing milk from her breast, and out of spiritual parental love, Lord Nityananda sat on her lap and sucked her breast like a child. I mean, this is inconceivable, inconceivable pastime. So it's stated by the author here. There are many atheists who criticize Lord Nityananda in spite of hearing his glory. I kicked them in the head, hoping for the Lord's mercy on them. Lord Nityananda is so lost in his transcendental pastimes in Srivas Pandit's house that Lord Gauranga has to look after him. So once upon a time, here's another interesting story about his pastimes, which are inconceivable, and he's so merciful because he's very, very funny. Funny, unusual, unbelievable, and he just gives out his mercy more freely than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives out his mercy. So one day, Lord Chaitanya was sitting in his house together with his wife, and around this time, Lord Nityananda came to see them, but he stood before everyone else completely naked, not feeling any shame. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, "Nityananda, why are you without any clothes?" And Lord Nityananda replied, "It is so, it is so." You know, there's a why question. It's just not making sense. Lord Chaitanya said, "Put on your clothes." And Nityananda said, "Today I leave." Lord Chaitanya said, "Why?" And Lord Nityananda said, "I cannot eat anymore." And Lord Chaitanya said, "When I say something, why do you answer with a completely different answer?" And Lord Nityananda replied, "I want all around attention." It's like a kid, you know, is in the mood of a little boy. And Lord Chaitanya said, "It's not my fault." Lord Chaitanya said, "Be merciful and wear your clothes." Lord Nityananda said, "I will eat." Lord Chaitanya was just laughing and laughing, and he dressed Lord Nityananda. And they were both chuckling. And Sachimata, Lord Chaitanya's mother, was overwhelmed with this humor. And so what happened at the same time is that Lord Nityananda came out of his trance after doing all these wild things. And Sachimata gave him 5 milk cakes to eat. So Lord Nityananda ate one of the milk cakes and threw the other 4 sweets far away. So Sachimata raised an alarm and said, "What are you doing? Why are you throwing it away?" And Lord Nityananda said, "Why did you put all the sweets in one place?" Sachi Devi said, "I do not have anything more. What will you eat now?" And Lord Nityananda said, "Ask for it, and it will certainly be there." So Sachi Devi went inside the room, and she saw the 4 sweets that were thrown away. Lord Nityananda were just sitting there. She said, "Where were the sweet cakes thrown, and how could they be here now?" She was amazed. And she came back to see Nityananda. She found him eating laddus and asked him, "Where did you get all these laddus from?" Nityananda replied, "I saw you were disappointed when I threw the sweet cakes away, so I brought them back." So Sachimata said, "Nityananda, why do you bewilder me in this way? I know very well that you are the Supreme Lord. Please, therefore, remove your illusory potency." So, wonderful story. Here's one of my favorite stories. Once upon a time, in Navadvip, there was a young Brahmin who was also a big rogue and what we call dacoit. He was born in a very high class family. Whoops, skip through here. But he was the leader of all the rogues and dacoits. And when he saw Lord Nityananda bedecked with jewels, he became very greedy. He was just waiting for the right opportunity to steal from Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda at that time was residing in a devotee's house named Haranya Pandit, who was a very pious Brahmana. So this dacoit said, why should we worry any longer? The goddess Chandi, that's Durga, an expansion of Durga, has arranged for all the wealth in one place. This Avaduta has on his person gold, gems, jewelry worth lakhs of rupees. We shall meet tonight and raid that house and loot everything. And they became very, very happy. They collected near the house where the Lord was residing. They were all devotees were actually chanting Krishna's names. Devotees were crying out very loudly. And the dacoits were waiting and waiting, waiting. They were very comfortable under the tree, describing how they would share the loot, honestly. As Prabhupada said, sometimes the criminals, they would meet and say, let's divide up the loot honestly. It's like politicians in Washington. So one would say, the earrings are for me. The necklace is for me. So as they were talking about this, they all went to sleep. And then they woke up the next morning frustrated. And they said, this is because we didn't worship the goddess Durga properly. So let's perform a great worship of Durga with a lot of meat and wine. So they collected all these things and they came to the house after worshiping goddess Durga. And hiding near the house, the dacoits saw, whoop, all right, I have another microphone here. I had it right here. Here it is. Because that's right. I come prepared. Okay. One should always have a backup plan, see? So as they came to the house, they saw these giant guards. You know, even Sri Arjuna over there was there. Yeah, Sri Arjuna. He was there guarding the house with his pistol. Anyway, so they saw these giant guards that were guarding the house. They were like 8 feet tall, and they carried many different weapons. And each one of them could kill 100 ordinary persons. They wore tilak marks on their foreheads, and they were continually chanting Hare Krishna. Maybe you can put this in the to be charged and it's there, so we have it for later. And so they had tulsi beads around their necks, and they were just worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the head of the dacoits said, it's not a good idea. Let's just wait for the appropriate time when these guards go away. So finally, after about 10 days or 15 days, the dacoits came back, and they were very happy because they'd worshiped Durga properly. But the night was overcast, and there were clouds, and what happened is a terrible gloom permeated the atmosphere. The dacoits stumbled forth in the dark. They became blinded. They didn't know what was happening. They fell into the moat surrounding the house and were immediately attacked by leeches, insects, and giant mosquitoes. Some of them lost their way, and they fell into the garbage pit. The insects and scorpions were unsparing and vicious. And some of them walked straight into thorn bushes and became completely entangled. Anyone who's been in India knows about thorn bushes in India. They're maha thorns. We've worn shoes sometimes in Braj, and thick-soled shoes like this thick, and the thorn goes right through it like a razor blade. They make fences out of thorn trees in India. And so actually they were all groaning in pain, completely blinded, fractured legs and hands. And to add insult to injury, Lord Indra started to rain down with raging storms and lightning. And everybody was in excruciating pain and blind and drenched, shivering, because Lord Indra knew the dacoits were trying to harm Lord Nityananda. So the young Brahmin who was in charge of the dacoits suddenly had a realization. He thought, he must be the Supreme Lord. He put us in a slumber. He had these Vaikuntha guards, and now we're drowning and being killed by these insects. They have a giant mosquito in India. They really have giant mosquitoes. And sometimes you hear about the crows in India. They're as big as Garuda sometimes. I remember one time I was in Jagannath Puri, there was a crow this big, seriously. You ever seen them in Jagannath Puri, especially they reside there? They could carry off the child. Really, they're so big. And the mosquitoes in Mayapur are, you can't even see at a certain time of the day when the mosquitoes come out. It's like being in an airport. You can't sleep at night. I remember Prabhupada, that one person criticized the devotees, says, these devotees, they don't even sleep with mosquito nets. You know, they weren't taking proper precaution. Prabhupada said, that proves that my disciples are transcendental. It's funny. So the dacoit began to meditate on Lord Nityananda, prayed in his heart to Lord Nityananda. And when Lord Nityananda heard these prayers in his heart, he immediately alleviated the misery of all the dacoits. Later on, this dacoit went to Lord Nityananda and said to him, save me. And he threw himself down before the Lord. His whole body was quivering. And he sang, oh Lord Nityananda, you are my only master. Wow. The fortunate Brahmin remained dumbfounded for some time, hearing the Lord's words. Only unrestricted tears flowed from his eyes. He then rolled on the ground and sometimes cried loudly, sometimes laughed out loudly, and suddenly sprang up. He began to dance and sing. And then he revealed the situation. He said, even though I'm a resident of Navadvip and a Brahmin, I am actually the lowest caste of chandalas and dog eaters. I'm as vicious as a hunter. I wanted to loot you, loot all your riches. I was worshiping goddess Chandi, eating meat, drinking wine, and doing all those things. I will cast this useless body into the Ganges and finish my life. That's how remorseful he felt. And actually, that's good to feel remorseful like that. And the Lord and his devotees were so moved by this Brahman's sincerity, they replied, O Brahman, you are truly a fortunate soul. You are an elevated servitor of Lord Krishna. How is it otherwise possible for you to witness this miracle? Because you're the recipient of the Lord's mercy and his beloved servant. The Supreme Lord Chaitanya has advented to save the fallen souls. Of this, there is no doubt. And Lord Nityananda said, oh, listen carefully, O Brahmana, from this moment, if you give up your ghastly, sinful activities, then I'm willing to take responsibility for all your previous misdeeds. Isn't that wonderful? That the Lord is taking responsibility if we stop what we're doing. This is like the story in the Bible where Jesus Christ stopped people from stoning this prostitute and said, you know, he who has without sin, let him throw the first stone. But then he said to the prostitute, sin no more. So it's not that one can go on sinning and use the Lord or his representative as a, let's say, as a savior, as a dumping ground for one's sins. You could just do it once. Actually, Prabhupada said twice. Prabhupada described it like the American game of baseball. He said, once, okay, twice, all right, we can understand, you slipped a little bit. And then Prabhupada said, 3 strikes and you're out. The Lord Then took the garland. Of course, Lord Nityananda is very merciful. Even if you have 100 strikes, he'll take you back, but you have to be sincere. The Lord took the garland from his neck, placed it over the Brahman's head, being very pleased with him. The air was resounding with the devotees' jubilant cheers of the holy name. The shackles of material nations broke away from the Brahman. The Brahmin threw himself at the Lord's feet, and grasping tightly, he began calling out his name again and again. Tears streaked down his cheeks, and he cried out, "O Lord Nityananda, you are the savior of the lost souls. Please allow this wretch a little place at your lotus feet. I was so abominable that I was malicious to you, and so there is no place for me to go." Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam vishamayam bhavambudo kripaya tavapada pankaja stita duli sadrasam vachintaya. So that's the narration, and I'm a little over time. Are we ready for the Abhishek? Five minutes. Okay. What's that? No, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And anyway, I'll just tell the story of Jagai and Madai, which we all know, and I don't need to make reference to that. So there were two nice Brahmin boys, and their names were Jagadananda and Madhavananda. And by bad association, and this is actually an important point for ourselves to understand, because we have this statement in the Bhagavatam that Mahat Seva Muhuri Muktes Tamodwaram Yoshitum Sangi Sangha. Lord Rishabhadeva is stating this. He says, by good association, one can be liberated and become Krishna conscious, and by bad association, you go down. So everything is based on association. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states, Karanam guna sangasha sadasad janmajonishu. Our entanglement is due to guna sangha, association with the modes of nature. That's why Srila Prabhupada very much stressed for us to associate with devotees and take prasadam. And if one doesn't take prasadam, then one is eating the modes of nature. One's associating with certain modes of nature. One doesn't, I mean, in addition to the karmic reaction by not offering the foodstuffs to Krishna, because everything that is not connected to Krishna has one or several of the modes of nature connected to it. So, Karanam Guna Sangasha Sadasa Janma Jonishu. So these two personalities who were born in very nice Brahminical families, they actually became degraded by bad association. So much degraded. It's described that when Chitragupta, who was Yamaraja's computer operator, was describing, I know scribe, but computer operator, you know, we have to put it in modern terms. He was the one who took the notes. He knows when you've been naughty, he knows when you've been nice. So you better be nice. So anyway, so it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that there was so much written about their nefarious activities, these two brothers, that it could fill a bottomless pit, and that the scribe or the computer operator had writer's cramp, carpal tunnel syndrome, as we say nowadays. And they couldn't keep up with it. And so anyway, so they were doing all sorts of things. And then as Lord Chaitanya sent out Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda to preach, Lord Nityananda was thinking that I really want to glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If I can glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saving someone who's really bad, then it will actually make him famous as Namaho Mahabhadanaya, Krishna Prema Padayate, Krishnaya Krishna, Chaitanya Namane Gauratasena Maha. Or as Prabhupada said, turning what, hippies to happies. Of course, nowadays, I think the hippies, society has become so degraded that the hippies would probably be considered pretty pious compared to what we have nowadays. If you go out to the university campus. Anyway, that's another issue. So, because I remember being a hippie and it wasn't so bad.
The hippies wanted something.
Yeah, we wanted something higher,
Yeah.
and there were many vegetarians and many.
Yeah, but they became vegetarian. It was before it got disrupted. They wanted higher knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah,
They were searching for purity.
yeah. So anyway, Lord Nityananda was thinking that he wanted to glorify Lord Chaitanya by finding the most degraded persons possible. So he was actually looking for the most degraded persons in Navadvip. And so he said to Haridas Thakur, here they are. Let's ask them to chant. So they were going around everybody's door, asking everybody to chant the holy names with a happy heart. So he knocked on, well, I don't know if they knocked on the door because they were outside completely in a drunken stupor. Uh, and so they got angry and they started running after Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. And Lord Haridas Thakur started teasing Lord Nityananda, saying that this Avaduta, I'm going to tell Lord Chaitanya on you. He's gotten us in trouble. We're going to be killed because of this crazy guy. And they were joking, running back and, talking back and forth to each other as they were just like running at the top speed. Of course, they didn't have to run that fast because these guys, Jagai and Madai, who were previously Jagadananda and Madhavananda, were completely drunk. Drunks usually aren't that good at running.
And fat.
What?
And fat.
And fat. Oh, yeah, they were pretty fat. Because when you drink beer, you get a beer belly. Liquor actually does that. It's very high in carbohydrates. Many types of liquor, not all liquor. So anyway, they were fat and they were stumbling around. And Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they were actually laughing. And so they went to Lord Chaitanya, and Haridas Thakur placed a complaint before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, this Lord Nityananda, this Avaduta, he's getting us in trouble, almost got us killed today. And Lord Chaitanya just became very ecstatic. He said, by Lord Nityananda's mercy, they will become Krishna conscious. I'm paraphrasing the whole thing. So a few days later, Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur go out, and Lord Nityananda asks them to chant again. Now, in the interim, these two dacoits had been having their drunken orgies or whatever outside of Srivas Thakur's house. In other words, whatever they were doing, drinking and cavorting or whatever, they were doing it outside of Srivas Thakur's house. And they were doing it at night. So what happened is at night, that's when Lord Chaitanya's kirtans were going on, the nocturnal kirtans. And there were no walls. We're talking about Srivas Thakur's house, but actually it was a courtyard. If anyone's been there to Srivas Angan, you know that it's really, everything's outside. There's rooms in different places where the deities are, but actually it's a courtyard. So they were hearing the kirtan and they were repeating the words of the kirtan in a drunken mood. Like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, like that. I mean, I don't know how people were drunk though, because I never drank in my whole life. So, but anyway, they were just like, arms around each other, swaying back and forth. And, I'm sure that there were some drunken ladies there too. And they were just like chanting back and forth, hey, Gauranga, like that. Because they were saying Gauranga, chanting Hare Krishna, they were getting purified. That's called Namabhas chanting. I mean, Namabhas means basically they didn't know what they were doing, but they were chanting the holy names and they were repeating and hearing the holy names from pure devotees and from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they had become qualified to receive Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So Lord Nityananda goes there again and says chant. And these guys are still drunk as hell. So anyways, and Madai picks up, a piece of a pot. And this Avaduta, blah, and he hits Lord Nityananda on the head. There's some blood coming out. And devotees ran to tell Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya comes back and he's saying, chakra, 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 Sudarshan chakra. And Lord Nityananda said, this is not the purpose of your incarnation. In this day and age, you're supposed to kill the demoniac mentality in people's hearts, not to kill the people. And in any case, Jagai, he stopped Madai from hitting me a second time. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh, then I give my mercy to Jagai. And then Madai, they were like two halves of the same person. Basically, they were just very close to each other. And so Madai said, you have to save me. And Lord Chaitanya said, you hit my Nityananda. You'll never be saved. Lord Nityananda, he fell down at Lord Chaitanya's feet and he said, please forgive him. And Madai fell down at Lord Nityananda's feet and he was forgiven. Later on, Lord Chaitanya was describing how much mercy it was to save Jagai and Madai. And he showed by his complexion turning black one time how much sin Madai and Jagai had. And the devotees looked at him and Lord Chaitanya said, what do I look like? They said, you look like Krishna. And the Lord Chaitanya said, chant Hare Krishna. He chanted Hare Krishna and then he came back to his normal complexion. Later on, Madai and Jagai and Madai, felt still remorseful. And they asked Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, what can we do? And they said, you should make a bathing ghat. And in this way, serve the Vaishnavas, because that's the solution for any sort of offenses that we have committed or anyone's committed. Serve the Vaishnavas. So from that day forward, whenever anyone came to bathe at that particular bathing ghat, Jagai and Madai were there, helping them with their clothes, serving them, cleaning the bathing ghat. And in this way, they became part of the Chaitanya tree. You can actually read about this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and became pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Also, it's described that they were Jaya and Vijay. After Jaya and Vijay went through some interesting births as Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Dandavakra, and Sishupal, like that. So they were very special personalities to begin with that came down to illustrate the Lord's unlimited mercy upon the conditioned souls. So as far as we are concerned, we need to take shelter of Lord Nityananda. How do we take shelter of Lord Nityananda? Do the same thing that Lord Nityananda did with Haridas Thakur, go out and distribute Krishna consciousness and share it with others. Yare deka tarheka Krishna Vadesham, Harigai Guru Hoy Tore Desh. Whoever you see, whoever you encounter, you can do it on the internet, you can do it in person, you can do it at your workplace, you can do it anywhere where there's people. And even if there's no people, you can chant to your pet cat. You can chant to the animals. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Even it's described by Haridas Thakur, the loud chanting of Hare Krishna can liberate the inanimate living entities like the mountains or the clouds or the trees or any living entity, whether the living entity moves or doesn't move. Okay, so we're ready? Okay, so all glory is to his divine grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Nityananda ki jai. All right, so someone should take the microphone. Whoever's going to chant. You can switch the microphone to the front.
Not sure, maybe you can check the mic.
Nityananda Ram ki Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram. Get the wampers. 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 Get the wampers. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. नादिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान, नादिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान, नित्यानंद महाजान, नित्यानंद महाजान, नादिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान. 1 2 3. Keep it 1 2 3. 1 normal. नादिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान, नादिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान. पाठियाचे नाम हट जीवेरा करा, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है. প্রভুরাজ্ঞায় ভাই মাগিয়ে ভিক্ষা প্রভুরাজ্ঞায় ভাই মাগিয়ে ভিক্ষা बोलो कृष्ण भजो कृष्ण करो कृष्ण शिक्षा बोलो कृष्ण भजो कृष्ण करो कृष्ण शिक्षा नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजाय नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजाय नित्यानंद महाजाय नित्यानंद महाजाय नित्यानंद महाजाय नित्यानंद महाजाय अपराध शून्य होय लोह कृष्ण नाम अपराध शून्य होय लोह कृष्ण नाम कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धान प्राण कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धान प्राण नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान कृष्ण रस संसार कोरी छाड़िया न चाय कृष्ण रस संसार कोरी छड़िया न चाय दिव्य दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार जीवे दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार हो नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान ओ नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान ओ नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान नित्यानंद महाजान ओ नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान ओ नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजान जय नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jai Jai Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Nitai Gaura Gaura Hari, Nitai 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 Gauranga, 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 Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari, 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 Nitai Gauranga Gaura Hari, Nitai Gauranga Gaura Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Everyone together. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram. Everyone together as loud as they can. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nitya. One more time. Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya जय नित्यानंद राम, जय नित्यानंद राम, नित्यानंद राम, जय नित्यानंद राम। जय नित्यानंद राम, नित्यानंद राम, नित्यानंद राम, जय नित्यानंद राम। राधे राधे गोविंदा, गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे गोविंदा, गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे गोविंदा, गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे गोविंदा। जय जय राधे राधे गोविंदा, गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे गोविंदा, गोविंद राधे। जय जय राधे गोविंदा, जय जय राधे गोविंदा, जय जय राधे गोविंदा, जय जय राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे 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 गोविंदा, ओ राधे 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 गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे जय राधे गोविंदा, जय जय राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे 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 गोविंदा, राधे 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 गोविंदा। जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे। जय राधा गोलोकानंद राधा गोलोकानंद राधे। जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे। जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे। जय नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nityananda Ram ki, Nityananda Ram ki, Nityananda Ram ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes till we set up the time. Not bad. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Nityananda Ram ki, Nityananda Trayodashi Maha Mahotsav ki, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Golokananda Bhagwan ki, Giriraj Govardhan ki, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna. So by the most merciful glance of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, after almost a year, we are actually gathered here again to have another festival at New Goloka Dham. Shri Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki. So it's only the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu that we all are here. And at the end, we will do Narsimha Aarti for the protection of everyone, so that everyone is safe. Okay. So thank you all for joining us today. I would like to thank all the devotees who have sponsored to this festival. So we still have sponsorship opportunities open. If you like to sponsor the entire Prasadam feast today, the sponsorship is $301. If you like to sponsor the beautiful flowers that have been used to decorate the altar and Shri Shri Radha Golokananda, the flower sponsorship is $251. If you like to sponsor the Abhishek, it's $108. Artik, $108. Yeah. So if you like to sponsor any aspect of the festival, you can raise your hand now, or please let us know later on. Okay. And thank you for the devotees who have already sponsored different aspects of the festival. So we have flowers sponsored by Radha Raman Prabhu and Kalindi Mataji. Abhishek sponsorship, we have Vikasananda Prabhu, we have Ajay Govinda Prabhu, Deep Bojani, and all their families. Artik sponsorship is Gopinath Acharya Prabhu and family, Vijay Mataji and family. Yeah. Hari Bol. Okay. So if it's Mataji. Flowers? Okay. Nikunja Vasani Mataji and Bir Krishna Prabhu for flowers sponsorship. Anyone else would like to sponsor any aspect of the festival? Okay. Rishikesh Prabhu and Shama Gauri Mataji and family, Abhishek. Yes, Prabhu. Venkat Prabhu. Okay, Venkat Prabhu and family, Abhishek sponsorship.
The whole jewelry was sponsored by Kripa Sindhu Group.
Hari Bol. So such beautiful jewelry today. And also, I hope everyone has noticed the beautiful bracelets which are on, we like to say, Mataji?
But they are the necklaces. So Radharani is wearing with a Krishna's picture, and that is known as Mohana, sorry. And Krishna is wearing with Radharani's picture, that is known as Hridaya Modana.
So it's beautiful. If you have missed that wonderful darshan, please, after we are going to do one bhajan, and after that you can come and take darshan of the beautiful necklaces. So thank you so much for all the sponsorships, the beautiful jewelry, beautiful dressing, the flower decoration. So many devotees have helped with this. Thank you all for your wonderful seva. Okay. Haribo! Shri Nityananda Ram ki. Okay, so before we go on, we are going to have sing Nityananda Ashtakam together. And after that, we'll have Aarti of Gaur Nitai and Radha Kolokananda, our Gaur Aarti, and then we'll be serving the Prasadam feast downstairs. Okay. So I was thinking, let's take just a minute, and everyone can, Nityananda Prabhu is most merciful. So everyone can close your eyes and make your deepest spiritual prayers at the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Shri Nityananda Ram ki jai. So let's loudly call out the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, praying to Nityananda Prabhu that all our deepest spiritual aspirations are filled by his unlimited mercy. So let's loudly call out the holy name, calling out for the mercy of Nityananda, and we are praying for each other that we all can progress very wonderfully at the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Okay, let's loudly call out. Hare Shri Nityananda Ram ki jai, Shri Shri New Goloka Dham ki jai. Okay. So now we are going to sing Nityananda Ashtakam. You can please follow along. It's on the screen right there.
Sarachandrabhrantim spuradamalakantim gajagatim Sarachandrabhrantim spuradamalakantim gajagatim Hari premonmatam dhrita paramasattvam smitamukam Paramasattvam smitamukam Sadha gurna netram karakalita vetram kalibhidham Sadha gurna netram karakalita vetram kalibhidham Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadhi Bhaje nityananda bhajana tarukandam niravadi Rasanamagaram svajana gana sarvasvamatulam Rasanamagaram svajana gana sarvasvamatulam Tadiyaika prana pramita vasudha janavapati Tadiyaika prana pramita vasudha janavapati Sada premonmadham paramaviditam mandamanasam Sa premonmadam paramaviditam Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi Shachi suno preshtam nikila jagadishtam sukamayam Shachi suno preshtam nikila jagadishtam sukamayam Kalo majajjo dharana karano dhamma karunam Kalo majajjo dharana Hare rakyanadva bhava jaladhi garvo natiharam Bhaje nityananda bhajana tarukandam niravadhi Bhaje nityananda bhajana tarukandam niravadi Aye brataninam kali kalushinam kim nubhavita Aye brataninam kali kalushinam kim nubhavita Tata prayaschittam nachayan yadanyan tata ime Tata prayaschittam rachaya yadanaya sata ime Vrajanti tvamitam saha bhagavata mantrayatiyo Bhagavata mantrayatiyo Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi Nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi Yateshtam rebrata kuru hari hari dvanamanisha. Yateshtam rebratu kuru hari hari dvanamanisha. Tatova samsara bhuditara nadayo mailage. Samsara bhuditara nadayo. Idham bahuspotara tatiratayanya pratigriham. Tiratayanya pratigriham. Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi. Balat samsaram vo nidihara nakumbod bhavamaho. Balat samsaram vo nidihara nakumbod bhavamaho. Satam shreya siddhunati kumuda bandhum samuditam. Satam shreya siddhunati kumuda bandhum. Kalashreni spuri jiti nirahara surya prabhamaham. Kalashreni spurjiti nirahara surya prabhamaham. Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi. Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi. Natantam gayantam harimanuvadantam patipati. Natantam gayantam harimanuvadantam patipati. Vrajantam pasyantam swamapi nadayantam janaganam. Jantam pashyantam samapi nadayantam janagana. Prakurvantam santam sakaruna drigantam prakalana. Sakaruna drigantam prakalana. Bhaje nityanandam bhajana tarukandam niravadi. Supribranam bratu kara sarasijam ko malataram. Mito vaktra loko chalita paramananda hridayam. Brahmantam madhuryar ahaha madayantam purajanam. Bhaje nityananda bhajana tarukandam niravadi. Bhaje nityananda jana tarukandam niravadi. Rasana madaram rasika varasad vaishnavadhana. Rasagharam sharam patita tatitaram smaranata. Param nityanandasta kamidamapurvam patiyata. Param nityanandasta kamidam patatiya. Tadangridvadhadhadra Puratu Nitaram Tasya Vedaye Tadangridvadhadhadra Puratu Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajana Tarukandam Niravadi Bhaje Nityananda Bhajana Tarukandam Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajana Tarukandam Niravadi Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajana Tarukandam Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai, 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 Nitai Gauranga, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Nityananda Rama Ki Jai. We'll read the translation. Would you like to read number 1?
I perpetually worship Sri Nityanand Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, whose bright face mocks the full autumn moon, whose pure complexion glistens, whose gait is like that of a maddened elephant, who is always intoxicated in Krishna Prem, who embodies pure spiritual energy, whose face holds a gentle smile, whose eyes are always rolling due to his absorption in Krishna Prem, whose lotus hand holds a glowing staff, and who, by the performance of Nam Sankirtan, pierces the influence of Kali Yuga.
I perpetually worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who is the mainstay of all the rasas, who is everything to his devotees, who is beyond compare, who is the master of both Vasudha and Janava Devi, who consider him more dear than their own lives, who is always maddened in Krishna Prem, and who is unknown only to those of meager intelligence.
I perpetually worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who is very dear to Sri Sachinandana, who is worshipped by the entire universe, who is the embodiment of happiness, who possesses infinite mercy for delivering the souls who are drowning in the age of Kali, and who by the performance of Sri Harinam Sankirtan thwarts the progressing false pride of the ocean of repeated birth and death. Perpetually worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who said to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, "Hey brother Gauranga, what will be the destination of the sinful souls of Kali Yuga, and how will they that be redeemed? Please devise a method by which they will easily attain you."
I perpetually worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who wandered around Bengal and approaching the door of each and every home, threw open his arms and exclaimed, "Oh, brothers, all of you should eternally perform Sri Harinam Sankirtan together. By doing so, I will take the responsibility to deliver you all from the ocean of material existence."
I eternally worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who is the Agastya Muni, who forcibly swallows the ocean of repeated birth and death, who is a rising full moon, which increases the ocean of the saintly person's welfare, and who is a sun, which dissipates the darkness of ignorance cast by the various classes of miscreants.
I eternally worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the tree of Krishna Bhakti, who wandered on every path in Bengal dancing, singing, and calling out, "Hari Bol! Hari Bol!" and who lovingly bestowed merciful sidelong glances upon those who were not compassionate to even their own selves. I eternally worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who held the supremely soft lotus hand of his brother, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, whose heart became filled with the highest bliss when the two brothers gazed into each other's faces, and who wandered here and there, delighting the townspeople with his sweetness.
May Sri Nityananda Prabhu place his lotus feet in the heart of one who lovingly recites this unprecedented Nityanandasika, which is a reservoir of rasa, the greatest treasure of the most exalted of the Rasika Vaishnavas, and the storehouse of the essence of Bhakti Rasa. This astika is sung in the melody known as Shikarini.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Jai Shri Shri Gauri Sai ki Jai Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Gora Nitai Gora Nitai Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Jaya Doyal Nitai Jaya Vijay Gauranga Doyal Nitai Jaya Vijay Gauranga Doyal Nitai Vijay Gauranga Doyal Nitai Jaya Vijay Gauranga Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai Shri Nityananda Rama ki jai Gauranga 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 Nityananda 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 Gauranga Nityananda
Oh, I'm thinking of Gokulam, we're leaving on Sunday. Gokulam. Nityananda! Nityananda! Nityananda Ram ki. So please stand up for Gaur Aarti. Also, we would like to mention that His Grace Gokulendra Prabhu is going to leave on Sunday or Monday? Monday. So he'll be for a while. So he's going to Croatia and then maybe Vrindavan. We would like to thank him for all his services, and he'll be leading the Gaur Aarti. I can just. Kiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Arati Keshova Kiva Jayo Jaya Gaura Chande Kiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Arati Keshova Janavi Tatabani Jagamana Loba Jagamanalova. Dakine Nitai Chan Bami Gadadara. Dakine Nitai Chan Bami Gadadara. Nikatiyanvita Srini Vasa Chatradhara. Nikatiyanvita Srini Vasa Chatradhara. Gaurachan Ratna Singhasane. Gaurachan Ratna Singhasane. Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane. Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane. Narare Adikore Chamara Julaya. Narare Adikore Chamara Julaya. Jayamukunda Basu Gosarigaya. Sanjayamukunda Basu Gosarigaya. Shankar baje, Ganta baje, baji karatala. Shankar baje, Ganta baje, baji karatala. Ranga baje, Paramarasala. Maduram Redanga baje, Paramarasala. Shanka baje, Ganta baje, Madur, Madur, Madur baje. Shanka baje, Ganta baje, Madur, Madur, Madur baje. Gorangera rotik shobha, Jana Jana mana lova. Gorangera rotik shobha, Jaga Jana mana lova. Kote Chandraji ne Vadana ujvala. Baho kote Chandraji ne Vadana ujvala. Galadesi vanamalo kore jalamala. Galadesi vanamala kore jalamala. Shiva Shuka Narada Preme Gada Gada. Shiva preme gada gada. Bhakti vinoda dekhi Gaura Champada. Bhakti vinoda dekhi Gaura Champada. Shiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Radhati Keshoba. Janavi Tatavane Jagamanaloba. Radotik Jova Jaga Janamanalova. O Gaurange Radotik Jova Jaga Janamanalova. Jaga Janamanalova. Jaga Janamanalova. Jaga Janamanalova. Gaurange Radotik Jova Jaga Janamanalova. Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai. Gonitai, 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 Jayo Jayo Gonitai. Jai Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram. Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram. Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Ram. Oh Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Ram. Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Ram. Oh Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Ram. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Nityananda. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Nitai, 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 Nitai. Hare Krishna, Krishna